Former President Jacob Zuma handed himself over to Estcourt Correctional Facility in KwaZulu-Natal last night. This was after a last-ditch effort by Zuma's lawyers to approach the Constitutional Court to stay his arrest until judgment linked to this is handed down by the Pietermaritzburg High Court tomorrow, or until the Constitutional Court hears the rescission application for next week. Now, we'll get, of course, some legal analysis in a short while by Karen Moore. She'll be joining us in just a few minutes. But let's get more now and reaction and certainly the process going forward from the Department of Correctional Services. We've got the national spokesperson, Singabakho Nxumalo, with us online. Good to have you. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
A very good morning, and thank you for giving us the opportunity.
All right, so Singabakho, as we've been reporting and we are seeing that former President Jacob Zuma has spent his first night at Estcourt Correctional Facility. Talk to us about this. Is that's where the president's being held currently?
We can confirm that indeed Mr. Jacob Zuma was admitted to start serving the 50-month sentence. He arrived just after 1 a.m. We then had to admit him in terms of the warrant of admission, and then we had to follow the processes in terms of taking personal information, fingerprinting him, taking the photo, and that was just the first phase of admission. And we subsequently had to then go also into the second phase, which is the assessment, and that could not be concluded. That will be done again today and for days to come, because it does take some time to admit an inmate and also to get the entire process concluded.
Yeah. Talk to us about what actually goes into an assessment. What are the things that are done?
The assessment is looking at a number of things. Critical there is health care age of an individual. If perhaps someone is on chronic medication or is having some underlying health conditions that we need to know, and also if maybe you are utilizing private doctor, then we need to share notes with our healthcare officials, and also the mental health of that particular individual must also be assessed. Then we even go further and to look then at the vulnerabilities of that particular individual, the security risk, the suicide risk, and also we will then rope in the criminologist also to have a session with that person. Hence, we say it takes a bit of time. The objective is to ensure that you cover all those so that you're in a better position to determine the type of a facility which must house that particular individual, get the correct classification, and also respond to the special or specific needs of that particular inmate.
All right, let's break that down a little bit. Obviously, one of the biggest issues that was brought up by the former president and, of course, his foundation and supporters and his family at large was that of the risk of COVID inside the correctional facilities. What is in place to ensure the protection of the inmates, not only the president, but just the former president, but just in general, inmates within correctional services? And particularly, we do know that the former president does have health issues. So where does this leave him?
How we do it is that all newly admitted inmates are not mixed up with the general inmate population. They get isolated for at least for 14 days. This is to check whether they do not have anything which could be related to COVID-19 or any other illness for that matter. And once then they've passed through that period of 14 days, we can then move them into the general inmate population. But we are also guided by what the assessment, will inform us. But it's important that you isolate them. Should there, let's say maybe one of them maybe is carrying a virus but is not even aware, we are able then to detect that and then and move that person aside, because correctional facilities are congregational settings. Should there be a case there and not detected, it will spread quite viciously and you will have more people testing positive, and some of them are extremely vulnerable and we may even lose them. So it's important that as a department, we're always on the caution to say, if you're being admitted for the first time, let us separate you for that 14 days. After that, then we can then move you into the general admitted population. This is also to assist our officials who must look after you, to make it a point that they know exactly, to say, okay, no, this one is COVID negative, then, they will know exactly what to do in terms of handling those categories. But now, as we are level 4, even the type of activities that happen in our centers are really limited. It's unlike when at level 1, where there's quite a lot of activities.
We obviously are talking to the fact, it is level 4, there are certain restrictions. Visitors, we know that that's one thing that is not allowed in correctional facilities. Does that apply to the former president as well? Is he allowed visitors or not?
Visitors are not allowed, irrespective of the classification of an inmate. Remember, in correctional facilities, all inmates are the same and must be treated equally. So even if, let's say, maybe someone may have an elevated, public profile, that will not work with us. Our policies are very clear. We are all equal, and therefore no one will receive visits unless perhaps it's for medical reasons or other, but it must be really for extreme cases where then, perhaps there could be some movement, or maybe we can allow for someone to go inside there. At level 4, we don't even allow transfers where maybe one inmate could be moved from one province to another.
All right. But you've never been in a situation as correctional services where a former president is being housed in one of your facilities. Again, I suppose maybe I'm asking the same question again, but I think on many South Africans' lips, will there be special privileges given to the former president? Does he have a different security? Does he have other, perhaps, special privileges that other inmates do not have?
What is clear is that all inmates must be kept in a safe and secure environment, because should anything happen, they will have to account. This is not just for Mr. Zuma, but all other inmates. But as we do as security screening, as we do all the assessments, and when we pick up that the risk is much higher, therefore it says to us, therefore we need to deploy additional measures to make it a point that this person doesn't find himself or herself vulnerable. So as a department, we need to take that into cognizance in whatever that we do, because anything, then we'll have to account. Remember, in this particular case, Mr. Zuma is not in a position to go there with the protection that he has been having, as the former state president. That is then now transferred to us to say, now look after this particular individual. So as a department, it's not about deploying an army of officials to say, now look after this person, but just to say what measures are you able to, to deploy, but also maintaining that he's an inmate like all other inmates, so that you do not promote what others may see as preferential treatment. So it's important that whatever that we do is aligned to our policies.
Will he be staying in Estcourt? Will he be staying at that correctional facility? Because we do know that the Constitutional Court had said that it was more Westville that they had recommended he serve the sentence at. Do you know this? Is that some or information you're privy to at this point?
For now, he's admitted there, but our act does allow us to say, after having admitted a person and whatever that we may have picked up, we do have the liberty to move the person. In actual fact, an inmate can be admitted in any correctional facility, but then how you then move that inmate from one center to another, must be guided very well and be a well-informed decision. It's not something that you may just decide that I no longer want to here, move to this center. There must be reasons for that. But Section 6 of Correctional Services Act does give the National Commissioner powers to decide in terms of placing or admitting inmates, to say, if, let's say, Westville maybe it's a facility which may not be conducive for whatever reasons, that person could be admitted maybe at Pietermaritzburg or even at Estcourt.
How was the decision made that he goes to Estcourt? Who made that decision?
Even if he were to be taken to a correctional facility, he would have been admitted there. Okay. Then after assessment, then he will be then moved if there's a need to do so.
All right, fair enough. just as I let you go, if the former president wants to be vaccinated, we know he's not vaccinated, would he be able to be done at your facility? Because he did admit on Sunday that as yet he's not vaccinated against COVID. So would that be able to be administered to him if he so asks for that inside the facility?
Yes, we had already started with inmates who are 60 years and above, and we are now moving towards those who are 50. If he's willing, but then our healthcare officials, will engage with him. I'm sure it's one of the things that they touched in the early hours when he was being admitted,
right,
to say this option of vaccination. He will then indicate if he's willing to take the jab.
Right, we'll leave it there. Singabakho Nxumalo, thanks for the clarification and as to what's been going on. That, of course, is the spokesperson. He, of course, is the spokesperson for Correctional Services.